Speaking of reliability, a podcast with good friends talking with you about reliability engineering topics. Welcome to Speaking of Reliability. This is Fred Schenkelberg.
And this is Carl Carlson.
Hey, Carl, I heard a disturbing bit of news the other day, is in that it was English literature classes, like in high school and early college times, are hesitant to assign books for people to read. And the thing is, they go on ChatGPT, get the summary, and it's skipping even buying a Cliff Notes and, read 2 paragraphs for Gone with the Wind and think they know it. And so the teachers are doing all kinds of other things to get people to do it. What didn't come out in the story was, what about writing? And I know from like a year ago, it was ChatGPT there was kind of this ongoing battle of, do we check to see if it was totally generated by a prompt, or did they actually edit it or write it? Is this straight plagiarism? And I didn't hear more about whether that was affecting, the 5-paragraph standard essay kind of thing, or any of that kind of skills. And so I'm concerned that we're losing the ability to write. And I think reading is a big part of learning to write, is reading well-written pieces. But the writing part is, I think, in danger. And I know that you and I believe that it is essential for what we do.
Yeah, Fred, that's a really, I share the concern. I've read about how younger people particularly are doing less reading, not reading books particularly, gaining information other ways, social media, videos, and great literature goes sitting on the shelf. And then it comes down to when in our work, you and I do a lot of writing. I know a lot of our colleagues do. I don't know how much writing is done with younger folks, but I share the concern, because it's one thing to be able to convey knowledge by presenting, but you can't always do that. A lot of the conveyance of knowledge, and we have to influence people, like we talk about, it has to be done by writing. And so we don't want it to be a lost art.
Well, writing is not just writing the great American novel kind of thing. It's writing a standard operating procedure, or writing a proposal, or responding to your boss's request in an email. We don't send a YouTube video back to our bosses to respond to, a request for some information about, hey, what's the failure rates on line X or something like that. And even presenting, I see people try to use that as the writing medium, and they kind of miss the mark on that. And I think we've talked about presenting, and it's don't cut and paste your whole report up there, especially, it's all kinds of other evils that go with that. But I have found throughout my career, from writing proposals to writing reports to writing recommendations to just writing, I've lost count of how many articles and tutorials I've written. And we get responses back from people, especially over the holidays. I was getting, dozens of people saying, I've learned so much from all the stuff you've put on the site. And I've read, so I follow your articles and I read every one of them. And I'm sure you get some of that response too, because of your FMEA stuff. And it's evergreen. Right. And we're not counting on somebody else's platform or anywhere else. And people can pull it up for free, and they can print it if they want to. And they can go back and, scan it and go, oh, I need to review this paragraph of it. It's a medium that I don't think is going away. It's digital now in more cases than not, yet it's definitely not going away. And it's, when done well, and I hope that you and I can be considered good writers as a minimum, it's very effective at conveying an idea. And sure, video gives you an extra communication opportunity with facial expression and gestures and animations and stuff like that. Yet a one-page memo takes on a digital system is maybe 10K. or maybe 20K. If it's a Word document, it's probably 1 meg.
Yeah.
The idea is that it's actually a very sparsimonious way of conveying information. Where if I did a video, that what I basically did was just reading or talking through that 1 page memo, now it's 10 meg. And it requires a screen that you can have the time to pay attention to instead of scanning it or reading it in an easier linear format or even a nonlinear format. So that I I really don't see writing going away. Now, on the other hand, we've added it to the book because we've also seen a whole lot of really bad writing out there that it does more harm than good if that's what you're proposing, putting forward. And I know we put in a bunch of tips about, lead with the main point up front. Don't bury it. It's like a newspaper lots of times for much of our writing is if you're making recommendations, make the recommendations on page 1, then back it
Yes.
up on page 2.
In your last minute there, while you're talking, it brings up a point. In addition to the point you're making, which is words,
Mm-hmm.
um, you used a parsimonious, which I know to be like stingy or frugal to the extreme.
Concise.
Yeah, concise. Well, okay, very good. And what I don't know is the vocabulary of people, particularly younger people. And I don't mean to harp on that, but we have 9 grandkids, and so I do a lot of interaction with young people,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, and some of them are really good in grammar and knowledge of words and things like that, and others are not as good. And that so I don't know how broad the education is on this. So it brings up the point as a writer as to what words do you use, what do you assume about your audience, um, if there's an age level or education level or um, a type of background, that kind of thing. I think is an
Mm-hmm.
important one of the places to start. And this is similar to presentation when we talked about doing good presentations. So you start with the audience. Who are
Right.
you writing for? Like in this new book, ebooks that I'm writing, um, I'm not writing the same kind of language that I used when I wrote the original Effective FMEA's uh, larger book, which was I'm writing more to students and to people that want to use it as a manual to refresh things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really put a lot of thought into my audience. What's your thought when you write an article like on Ascendo? Do you put attention on to who the audience is very much, or do you just try to write to everyone?
Well, writing to everyone is writing to no one because everyone's not going to read your stuff. And if it's written for everyone, then it's not useful for who your audience really is. And so, like the CRE prep series of tutorials or short articles, and they're basically how to do something like the 8 steps to create a X bar and S control chart, which still happens to be a very popular post I wrote 8 years ago. It's amazing to me that it gets so much traffic.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's very much this is what it is. This is, where you would use it. And here's the steps to set it up. Get some data, do this calculations, get this calculation, put it on a plot, blah, blah, blah. And here's how you interpret it. It's very basic. And that was very deliberate. It's what it was something I learned from a website called ProBlogger, and it's out of Australia. And Darren Rouse has been writing it for decades. And he said the very same thing is write to your audience. And he said, if you're writing a series, and this is kind of really for the folks that want to contribute to the ongoing professional knowledge of, say, their team inside their organization, or they want to contribute through Ascendo or whatever, it's not write it once and you're done. It's a steady stream of professional knowledge, and it's getting aside from just writing in general. But the idea is that what Darren said is take a great big piece of paper, identify who's your perfect target audience. Who are you writing to? And I was thinking somebody that was interested in learning the various methods that are associated with the CRE examination through ASQ, American Society. Is it for quality or of quality? I never really understood that. Um, but ASQ certification. And part of it is I went through that certification process and I reflected on where I started. I talked to some of my colleagues and friends that were interested in it. I was teaching classes on doing it already. And so I had a pretty good idea of the people that were interested in learning these basic skills. And it was clear that if a good number of them had no experience with control charts. And so when I sat down to write about control charts, it was assume this is their first introduction to it. So it was very basic. And at the other side of that piece of paper was where I want them to be after they read through all my work. It's like writing a book. Who am I writing to? What journey do I want to take them on when we're done? For the practical reliability engineering, or not practical reliability, the process of reliability engineering, we're taking people that want to make an improvement in product reliability as a project or within their organization for many projects. And at the end of the book, they have a executable plan that will be successful. It's what we're taking them on that journey. And so you identify where you want them to be. And then you write articles that take them from point A to point B. And so I think 8 out of 10 articles I wrote were very basic. And then 2 of the 10 were, the higher concepts and more principles based and more, once you know the basics, here's the next level of understanding and so on. And occasionally then I'd do a capstone article that would put it all together. But it was at various stages along that journey, I have a different audience. So somebody that's been reading the last 8 articles on like the FMEA principles that you put together, they're in a different place now than they were at the start. So that audience, that segment of your audience has changed.
Yes.
And so part of it is not just say, oh, I got to write for, reliability engineers. Well, there's no such thing as just reliability engineers. There's asset management, there's plant management, there's systems and there engineers, there's product
And one of the big
development.
differences is engineers versus maners. I think, as you're
Oh,
pointing out, it's a
yeah.
huge different audience.
Yeah. And how much are they just getting started and just been tapped on the shoulder saying, you're the girl now, you're the reliability person. And versus somebody that's been doing it for 30 years. And it's all over the map. So be very specific down to an avatar, an individual that you're actually writing for. And so early on, what I did in that big piece of paper, I says, this is a person. This is Sally. And she just got notified that she's now not a mechanical engineer. She's the team's reliability engineer. And it's, where do I start? And how do I get going? And I have good engineering skills, yet how do I adapt that to what I'm doing now? What do I need to know? And then later it was like somebody with 5 years experience. And later it was somebody that's managing a team of 6 people and includes the reliability role. And later it was an executive that's overseeing the reliability, like a director level type person. And I had a little photo and a short bio and background and the types of questions that they're facing. And that identified the audience for me. And I would write to that person, just like you and I talk to each other. I talk to Sally, basically.
Really good, and that's similar to when we present.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of presenting to a quote audience, you're presenting to the individuals in the audience, and so actually look them in the eye and talk to them,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. And so, but what you're saying is that it's different with writing because you don't see them, but you want to visualize them.
Yeah, you can. All right. You can create your own avatar. So if it
Hmm.
makes it more personal to you, it does change your writing. It changes it to more conversational, more approachable.
Yeah.
You Don't gloss over things, assumptions. You know, if you go a pure digital writing style and every sentence is a link to somewhere else and you leave out everything that you can link to, you only have two sentences now and 50 links. Where's your
Yeah,
writing? what what are you doing here?
and this is something you're very good at, Fred. You've done this for years, and I've been on a lifelong learning process on it, which is there's a human aspect to this. You're talking to people. You're
Mm-hmm.
not talking to computers. You're basically wanting to reach people, and to reach people, you have to be able to understand who they are and talk to them in a language in a way that they understand.
Right.
And so that you can't be too technical. And
For
then that,
some, and you can't be enough technical for others.
yeah, that's right.
It really varies, and it's understanding that. And yeah, every article I've written is and everything I've written is not for everyone. And I try to
Mhm.
make that very clear right up front is this, basically this is going to talk about this in this way. And this is a basic introduction to control charts. And if you're an expert at it, it might be a refresher for you or a touchstone or a reference for you or something you'd recommend to other people. That's one way that article could be used. Yet for somebody that's been referred to it saying this is a good intro, it's educational. It gives them a basis without a lot of having to know it. All of the key terms like control limits are defined. It's not assuming that you already know this stuff and how to interpret them and stuff like that. Now, when it comes to recognizing out of control signals, well, there's another whole article on that. And so I would judicious, instead of writing the entire book, it would then link to this other step that goes into it. But it was very concise. 500 words, I think, is the whole article. A couple of graphs.
One of the ways that I address if you have a broad audience, like if you're writing on Ascendo, for example,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of different people there.
Yep.
Some of them are new, some of them are 30 years of experience, and you may not know exactly who they are.
Yep.
So, as you point out here, and I'll just elaborate on it a little bit, is you can say, here's something that a beginner needs to know, or something that's new in the process. You really need to do this and this. The more
Mm-hmm.
experienced people can do this and this. And then when I do exercises or problems at the end of a article or a chapter, I'll say, okay, beginner's problem, advanced problem, and in that way, people feel recognized and involved. Uh, so sometimes you have to do both, but you can do them by knowing that they're different and
Yep.
tailoring some of your article for some and others.
Yep.
I want to also comment, Fred, as you were talking about the audience, you also threw in there what I will call objective, is knowing what you're trying to accomplish. What's the end
Right.
result?
Right.
Stephen Covey's begin with the end in mind. And so it's sometimes good well, let me ask it as a question. Do you begin your writings by stating the objective?
Not always. I'm not as disciplined as you are. Sometimes I start out with a story or something like I'm talking to somebody. Uh,
Yeah.
Sometimes I have a point and I put that right up front and it's stated very clearly. And other times it's more of a intro to a concept. And I don't want to, the objective is you understand the second law of thermodynamics. Right. Well, how about we go into this a different way? And Chris Jackson does that a lot. He comes into topics in oblique ways that you like, and then it all makes sense at some point. There's different ways of doing it. There's no right or wrong way to do it. But in our last couple of minutes here, there are definitely wrong ways to write, like the wall of text. Just put 2,000 words in one long sentence without paragraph breaks or white space or headers or any organization to it at all.
Yeah, since I know we're time limited, let me throw in some other things. And I agree with you on the objective. You don't have to start with the objective. Depending on if you're writing a how-to manual, you
Yep.
might say this manual is meant so you can swap out air conditioners or whatever.
Right.
Uh, you'd have to describe it that way. But if you're doing a more general article like how to lead a meeting, um, you can start with a story
Yeah, an anecdote about a really bad experience in a meeting or a really great experience in a meeting, and then say, well, let's break that down. How did that happen?
I
And then,
always want to start, and I don't necessarily put it into the article. I do on some how-tos and things, but I always want to have in the background as I'm preparing for the writing an outline.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, what are the main points? What's the message I want to get across? What are the main points that contribute to the message? So I try to do a very clear outline, even if it's not bulleted in the article.
right. And it might be gives you a framework for the headings that gives you a structure for somebody scanning it real quick, saying, do I want to read this? And they go, oh, this is a 8 point step to do something. Oh, that's what I was looking for. But if you don't have the headers or the bold or the outline piece of it, and it's just buried in the structure of just a lot of words, you, because what I've learned on online reading is it's a scan first, and that's where those headers and space and everything else comes in play. But it comes from what you're talking about, Carl. In my case, is that I go, oh, I want to write about this. Okay, let me outline it. Does that make sense? Does that get the point across or the objective or set it down what I'm trying to convey, and then fill it in? It instead of just start writing and then go on a
Right.
tangent and then go on another tangent and
Well, let's be frank about it. We're not novelists in our field because I attend some uh, social gatherings with friends in our association,
mm-hmm,
and one of them's an author of novels. And when he
cool.
goes about writing, it's a totally different thing
Yep.
than reliability engineering field. I mean,
Yeah.
he'll go off on a tangent and he'll pull people in with different things. He'll still have an outline, but there is a difference.
Yeah, there's building suspense, or it's and
Yeah,
get character development
yeah,
and writing
exactly. We don't have
effective
to do too
dialogue
much
and
character development.
yeah.
Uh, but I wanted to introduce one other part of this, Fred, and get your opinion on it, which is we'll call it the grabber, the attention grabber.
Hmm.
20 years ago, that was not a thing. The I've just pulled out a random book here on FMEA from my library, The Basics of FMEA. I know
Hmm.
you've seen it. It's a good book.
By McDermott.
It's very simple, and the title doesn't grab you today. I don't know if that would be the title today. And
Now, is
in
this the one with the checkerboard pattern
yeah,
swirling in the
yeah,
background? Yeah, yeah.
yep,
That doesn't work for me either. I was like, why is this a technical book? They really stretched to find a cover for that.
yeah. So the when I go on YouTube for fun, just to surf a little bit, the attention grabbers can go overboard.
Yeah,
Some of them write everything is so and so crushed this. They, you know, basically it's hyperbole.
yeah.
And in our field, I think we got to strike a middle course. You want to get people's attention, but you don't want to do it in a way that is unprofessional or overdoes the attention grabbing. Where do you come down on that subject?
I think of it more as that you're searching for something, and it could be inside your own organization set of documents and references and internal websites to support reliability engineering, for example. Is if somebody's interested in, oh, I need to refresh and get my team up to speed for an FMEA session we got coming up. And so, what's our documents on that? The title has to help them find it. And so, if it's like 8 ways to reduce your risk of product failure, and it's an article about outlining how to do FMEA, the title doesn't help me find what I'm looking for, right? It
Yeah,
misses the mark. So I think you got to, and I've learned over the years and read about it many times, is that the title nowadays is 3 to 5 words. It has to be enough to alert the person what this document is about, and is it match what they're looking for. And if it's a trick question, or if it's a trite lead in, or if it's an inside joke, it's not going to do that. It's going to work for only the people that know, and
yeah.
everybody else will have no idea what this is about.
So that's kind of similar to where I'm going on it, which is a middle road. In other words, you don't want to be bland and uninteresting. And so like the title of the book could be FMEA, and that's a bit bland. And
It also could be the book you wrote that's what 600 pages or however
yes.
long it is. It's it's that's why I kind of like the basics of FMEA. It is just the basics. It's what
Hmm.
it's the whole book's what 40 pages, and it's a small format, and it
Right.
covers here's you build a team, you do this, and here's the steps. Period.
Yeah.
It has no flourish. It has no justification. It doesn't have a bunch of case studies. It doesn't do anything other than here's a when I first got it, it was $10. And here's a $10 book that gives you the basic outline. The whole team now has a common language to work on. Go.
Hmm.
And it doesn't teach you everything you need to know by any means, yet it serves its purpose. It's just the basic.
So when you're writing, so the title is important,
Mm-hmm.
and
The
it,
first
it should.
paragraph, first line is the way I heard about it, Carl, is the title gets you to open the document. The first line gets you to read the first paragraph. The first paragraph gets you to read the next one. It's
Okay.
the writing has to be very clear right up front. And you've been coached on writing executive summaries is put the main point right up front. Don't bury it. Just it's don't tell a story on the first page. Don't do, if this is
Yeah,
a
you don't want to get too
proposal
far into
report.
the article without the message, or
Yeah,
the main point you're going for,
that's
or
right.
you'll lose the interest.
Yeah.
On the
Check
other
your
hand, as
spelling. Yeah, it is. You gotta, yeah, yeah, it depends on the audience and what you're trying to do. But if it's a tutorial on doing, say, a control chart or doing an FMEA, the main point is this is going to help you learn the basic steps of this.
and like a presentation, I think you want to end with some kind of summary or wrap up, or what do you want people to walk away with?
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be an academic summary.
Yeah, no, it's not a academic summary. And the result of our findings is blah blah blah, and here's future work. It's along that lines, though. It's like, all right, you've got this. If you have any questions, leave a comment or get in touch with us. Here's another set of documents for you that carry on this tutorial type process. But it's that old adage. It's same with presentations. Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you told them.
Hmm.
Kind of is a common structure for a lot of writing. The other is like in a newspaper article. It's what's the main takeaway point right up front? What's the main gist in the first paragraph?
That brings up the point, Fred, is don't try to do too much. In other words,
Yeah,
stay focused on your topic
yeah,
and don't go all over the map. One other point I'll make, and I know you know this well, but I don't know if everybody knows it, which is be really be use a of course use a spell checker, and I really recommend using a grammar
yep,
checker, because bad grammar or misspelled words, and sometimes misspelled words won't get caught by spell check
yep.
because they are
I've
some
taught
other
mine.
word. Yeah,
I've taught mine way too many bad habits.
yeah. And so be really good on the subject, because nothing will turn off people more than it's kind of like if you don't care enough to write with good grammar and spelling, why should I read your article? Kind
Well,
of thing.
there's and we didn't talk about it. It might be a whole other episode. Is editing, is
Yeah.
checking your work and fact checking and all those other aspects of it. Is if you're going to write something, writing it once and sending it in is and hope you get an A on it. That's not what we're doing here today. It's we're trying to effectively communicate and writing well, technically well, full sentences, pacing, word choice, all those basics, grammar, all that stuff matters. And
Well, in terms of editing, Fred, we don't have that would be a separate subject, which we'd be happy to do at some point. But let's at least say pay attention to it.
yeah,
Um, you can have a friend or a colleague look at something, give me your hey, Mary, give me your opinion on this subject. What do you think?
yep.
Does it come across well? Or a formal editor, but sometimes people don't have the resources for that.
When it's a high stakes document, then yes, it's get a somebody that really does know how to do professional editing
Yes,
to take a look at it. If it's $1 million proposal, get an editor.
yes, exactly. If you've everyone in reliability and the listeners here are in some form of reliability or interested, you're doing some kind of writing. We would love to hear from you on, is it a thing, something you need help with? Is it something where do you go for resources? What questions do you have? We'd love to hear from you on the subject of writing.
And there's multiple ways you can write to us. Imagine that. You can also leave us a voice message over at accendoreliability.com/go. There's both a comment field and a way to record a message for us. Carl and I and the other hosts of the show are available through LinkedIn. It's Writing Again, or our About pages, and that's Writing Again, email or a contact form. So you can get to practice your writing, telling us what you'd like to know, as Carl outlined. So get your pencil sharp or your keyboard turned on.
Very good, Fred.
Yeah. No, it's and one last pitch is that you mentioned, resources is in the book that Carl and I wrote in the process of reliability engineering. There's a chapter or a section of a chapter on writing, and it includes, I don't know, probably a dozen or more go-to references that we used over and over again throughout our writing career. And so there's a bunch of good stuff in there about more than we covered in the last 25 minutes. So that's the first place I'd go nowadays and recommend.
I agree.
All right. Thanks so much, Carl. We'll talk to you again soon.
Talk to you later, Fred.
Cheers. Thanks for listening to Speaking of Reliability. We invite you to join the conversation. If you have a question or a topic that you think we should discuss in a future show, please let us know. You can find a comment box below the episode show notes, or just leave a note as part of a review on iTunes.